Hi and welcome back. This is episode 15 today. I have a few things to go over. Before I do, you can find me at fearmeitsbre on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube. Here you are. And we're going to go over a few things today, such as the new face of Olay Skincare is Dylan Mulvaney. Surprise, surprise. So there's that, which is very interesting. And then we're also going to talk about Daredevil Born Again, FBI documents. Apparently all of us are extremists. Justice Clarence Thomas's issues, and Texas Governor Abbot probably will be pardoning Daniel Perry, and the left does not like that. So first we're going to hop over to the Daredevil Born Again article I have pulled up. For one, this is actually my husband's cup. I got it for him for Christmas when we were we dating or were we married? I don't remember. It's very sad because it's like Thanos snapped and the Punisher's starting to fade away because it's a very old cup. But, we like the Punisher here, and we're very disappointed in this reported information. So, Daredevil Born Again reportedly shows Jon Bernthal's Punisher go on a rampage after racist cops misuse his logo, and you and I are not the same. Daredevil Born Again is one of the most highly anticipated Marvel Disney Plus shows. The show will mark the return of Charlie Cox as the titular hero, and Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, among others. Among those confirmed to be returning from the Netflix Marvel show is Jon Bernthal's Punisher. Bernthal's anti-hero was loved by so many because he was a fearsome opponent to Daredevil. Fans love seeing the Punisher go toe-to-toe with Cox's hero in terms of fighting style and ideologies. However, it is the ideologies that cause trouble, where several fans who are members of law enforcement took things too far by aligning themselves with the fictional anti-hero. However, as per new reports, this will be addressed in Daredevil Born Again. As per Twitter user and reputed film insider, Can We Get Some Toast? Daredevil Born Again will make a statement against those in law enforcement who have adopted the Punisher as their idol. The scooper said that Jon Bernthal's anti-hero isn't going to be happy about cops misusing the skull and symbol. Got confirmed from the set of Daredevil Born Again on the scene that the Punisher shot this week. He's not a fan of some cops misusing his logo. He takes matters into his own hands when he encounters some racist cops and says, "You and I are not the same." Reports of cops and various members of law enforcement using Punisher's logo as their identity have been making the rounds for about half a decade now. It has been popularly theorized that it is a sort of escapist fantasy for them, since Frank Castle's a traumatized veteran who goes around shooting criminals away. It is certainly makes for a great emotional release and doesn't create any problems when it's limited to fantasy and fiction, but trouble begins when cops love the symbol and essentially adopt the ideology of the character in their real life and line of work. Thankfully, not everyone agrees with it, like the creator of the character or the actor who plays him. If the insider report turns out to be true, then it will be the first time Frank Castle has confronted the people who idolize him and his methodology. Even the creator of the character, comic book writer Gary Conway, previously slammed police for adopting the symbol of the vigilante. He said in a sci-fi interview, "The vigilante anti-hero is fundamentally a critique of the justice system, an example of a social failure. So when cops put Punisher skulls on their cars or members of the military wear Punisher skull, they're basically sides with an enemy of the system. Whether you think the Punisher is justified or not, whether you admire his code of ethics, he is an outlaw, he's a criminal. Police should not be embracing a criminal as their symbol." Actor Jon Bernthal has spoken out about the people who adopt his character's way of justice. After retweeting fan art of his character, the actor stated, "Beautiful work. These people are misguided, lost, and afraid. They have nothing to do with what Frank stands for is about. Big love." Here's the tweet. Even Marvel Comics have addressed the people and cops who have adopted Frank Castle's ideology. In Punisher 13, comic by Matthew Rosenberg and Seisman Krasinski, Frank Castle encounters cops who idolize him, but instead of encouraging them, he tells them that they are supposed to uphold the law, and if they need a role model, Captain America is always there. And now remains to be seen how the show handles this controversial topic. So that's the thing, right? I think a lot of people like Punisher, not because they're out there being like, yeah, let's go do terrible things, but because they like the character. He's a cool fictional character who sees injustice and sees bad people doing very bad things, and he takes care of it. So, I mean, what was his name? Chris Kyle had his whole unit, their symbol, they used the Punisher skull because they just loved the character. That doesn't mean that they're going to take his ideology to their own heads and go copy him necessarily. You're going to have weird people who might do some copycat stuff. Sure, whatever. But I think it's a slam in the face of a lot of people who, especially conservatives, because a lot of conservatives enjoy the Punisher. We loved Netflix's Daredevil. He was one of our favorite characters in Daredevil. And then the Punisher was fantastic. It was really hard to watch sometimes, and it was really brutal. But I love Jon Bernthal, and I absolutely love that show. So I am extremely disappointed if this is all like actually information that's true. It is reportedly, like, it's allegedly, but I'm fairly certain with the direction Disney is going that they are going to ruin the Punisher. They've already ruined Daredevil from what I have seen from She-Hulk, which I never finished, and I do not intend to finish because that show's utter crap. I don't even intend to finish The Mandalorian. I watched episode 3, was bored out of my mind, and I'm done. I might watch the Ahsoka show just because I'm curious to see how they translate some of the Rebels animated characters to live action. I'll watch maybe like an episode or two, and if I'm not feeling it by like the second or third episode, I'll probably just stop. So I will probably watch that. I'm very likely not going to watch Daredevil Born Again because, like I said, they already destroyed Daredevil. They've already destroyed Matt Murdock, and I want the Punisher, in my mind, to be the Punisher from Netflix's Daredevil and Punisher. I don't want him tainted. I don't want him ruined. So I really don't want to watch it. I don't think we will. My husband is the same way, where he's just like, I'm done with Marvel. I'm done with Star Wars. I'm a little more open to still watching some things here and there just because I'm curious about some things. They also announced that they're going to be doing, I don't know if it's another trilogy. I guess it's another trilogy. Focusing on Rey from Star Wars, too many from the sequel trilogy, building up the Jedi Order and like doing things. And I'm just like, okay, so you just literally ripped Luke's story right out of the expanded universe and slapped a female face on it. Awesome. So stupid. I don't know why they're going back to that. I don't know if anyone necessarily blames Daisy Ridley for how terrible those movies were, but I wouldn't go back to that character. It's a terrible Mary Sue character, and I really think Star Wars should either stop or just do a hard reboot and disregard everything. But really, I have no hope in Disney. I have no love for Disney. It's ironic, I was wearing a Mickey Mouse sweatshirt earlier, and everything Disney is just going to be utter garbage because they don't care. They don't care about you. They just want to get their ESG score up, and they just want to score woke brownie points. So sorry to break it to the world, but I think we all know. I mean, Little Mermaid, they're going to be changing the lyrics in Kiss the Girl from that whole my oh my, the girl's too shy, won't you reach out and kiss the girl, or whatever it is. I never watched the movie really as a kid. They're going to be changing it from that to make it sound like Eric is not forcing himself upon Ariel. But the whole point of that scene is Ariel wants to be kissed. She wants him to kiss her. She wants her voice back. It is not him forcing himself upon a woman that's like, oh my goodness, you've just kissed me. How dare you? It's literally Ariel being like, yeah, okay, seriously, kiss me. Like, it's her wanting that because she wants the true love's kiss that will bring her voice back or whatever. And it's just like the animals and stuff are trying to help push that along so that is able to happen. So I think that the writers of the new Little Mermaid movie have really missed the mark in the writing of the movie because they're editing that song, and then they're also editing Poor Unfortunate Souls because I guess there's a line in it where it makes it sound like Ursula is basically saying women should be seen and not heard, and they're excuse me, they're basically like, oh, well, we don't want women to think that they're not allowed to speak up and speak out because of a line in this song. And it's like, oh my word, no one's gonna take it that way. And all you're gonna do is anger people. Like a really good friend of mine who loved Little Mermaid growing up. It was her favorite movie. She loved Ariel, and she's gonna be very disappointed in this movie because what she grew up on and like her childhood has been like erased and rewritten basically through this movie. So I have no hope for Disney. I think Disney's falling apart. It has also been announced that Mandalorian is going to be I don't know if it's directly after season 3 because I don't have anything pulled up, but they are going to be finishing out The Mandalorian with a movie instead of another season, which they're like, oh, we want to bring it to the big screen, or like, you know, or whatever. And they're making it sound like it's this great thing. But I think it's because they realized nobody's watching season 3. Everybody hates season 3. Season 3 is more boring than, I don't know, the paint on my walls. It is more boring than the paint on my walls. And there's nothing to it. So I think that they realized we cannot build this up for another season. We have to be done. Let's just get a movie out and just be done with it. So anyway, that's my pop culture rant for today. Disney is trash. Old Disney's great, and I enjoy Bluey. I do watch that with my kids. But Disney is trash. Don't be surprised if everything that they try to put out is utter just trash. I've said that word so many times today, but it is. All right, so moving on, we're going to read a New York Post article. The FBI... Oh, I should scroll to the top because for some reason it's like in the middle of the article. All right, so... FBI documents associate internet slang like based and red pill with extremism. New documents released Monday warn the common internet lingo being associated with violent extremism by the FBI. The Heritage Foundation's oversight project said it used a Freedom of Information Act request to expose FBI documents that include glossaries showing that the common internet slang has been flagged as an indication of involuntarily celibate violent extremism or radically ethically motivated violent extremism, whatever that means. Sorry, I think I have a mild cold. I feel like I'm always sick. I'm always telling you guys, like, oh, I have a cold. I don't know. This winter's just hit us so hard. So I definitely have to drink water a lot to, like, continue to be able to speak. Part of the document refers specifically to incels, or those involuntarily celibate whom the threat overview describes as possibly seeking to commit violence in support of their beliefs that society unjustly denies them sexual or romantic attention to which they believe they are entitled. The assessment notes, while most incels do not engage in violence, some have been involved in at least 5 lethal attacks in the United States and Canada. Many of the terms mentioned in the FBI's list of incel terminology are either widely used across the internet or innocuous in nature. The one term in the glossary is red pill, which comes from the 1999 film The Matrix and has been used as a metaphor for seeing hidden or politically incorrect truths about the modern world, particularly when it comes to politics or dating. The FBI's list of key terms defines it as a belief shared by many online communities that society is corrupt and that the believer is a victim of this corruption. I think that's true. Where's the problem in that? Many of these terms listed are focused on self-improvement or the struggle to reckon with the marketplace of modern dating. The glossary defines the term Chad as a race-specific term used to describe the idealized version of a male who is very successful at getting sexual and romantic attention from women, later noting the incels unsuccessfully compete against Chads for attention. Okay, I've only ever heard Chad is used as like a negative thing where it's like, don't be a Chad. You're such a Chad. I've never heard that as a positive. I want to be a Chad from like any guys that I've like watched on videos. So I'm not sure what they mean by that. This list also includes the term looks-maxing, which is defined in the documents as a process of self-improvement with the internet to become more attractive. I haven't heard that one, so I can't speak for that one. There are many terms associated with self-pity rather than violence, such as saying it's over to convey the hopelessness of being an incel, or referring to a height cell or a bald cell to define people with short stature or baldness, respectively. The FBI lists for terms associated with racially or ethically motivated violent extremism. RMVE has a mix of extreme terms and innocuous ones. Red pill also appears in the list, but with a different description in the context of RMVE ideology. Taking the red pill or becoming red pill indicates the adoption of racist, anti-Semitic, or fascist beliefs. Based is defined by the FBI as a word used to refer to someone who's been converted to racist ideology, or a way of indicating ideological agreement. In regular parlance, based is a context-specific word coined by rapper Lil B that can mean, as Know Your Meme describes, anything ranging from something that is agreeable and cool to something considered anti-woke. Based literally means different things to whoever is saying it. I might say, oh, wow, did you hear that so-and-so is actually really based? They said this great thing about being anti-abortion and being pro-life. Whereas somebody else might be like, oh, that person's based because they said this. Based literally just means like based in reality. Like it doesn't mean at all what they're describing it to mean. The list also includes the term LARPing, which was originally used to describe people engaged in live action roleplay, often as characters in high fantasy settings. So like Dungeons and Dragons is on the FBI terror watch list now? Like what? In a political context, the term can be used for people with impractical or improbable political vision, such as imagining a monarchist future for the United States. The FBI glossary says the term is used to deride individuals accused of not being as extreme or unprofessional of skills or other valued characteristics they claim to have. Okay, this is so stupid, all right? This is one of the stupidest things I have ever heard. It feels like satire, but it is not. Seriously. So, like, for anyone who, for some reason, does not know the red pill, blue pill reference, it is from The Matrix, as they said. And you'll hear like a lot of conservative like commentators or whatever will be like talking to someone who might have predominantly been woke or on the left, and they'll be like, so what was your red pill moment? Like, what took you away from the Democrat Party, or what brought you away from the left? Literally, okay, it is the scene in The Matrix where Lawrence Fishburne hands Keanu Reeves 2 options and says, you can either take the red pill, wake up to what's going on and help us fight it. I'm not directly saying the quote, so don't at me for butchering it. You can fight with us, or you can take the blue pill, go back to sleep, forget all of this ever happened, and just continue on in your mundane false existence. And like, so, you know, people have adopted that as like the red pill is you're waking up to the political crap, you're waking up to all this stuff. Or you can take the blue pill and you can choose to just ignore it and continue on your pretty way. And I think that that is absolutely ridiculous that this is a term that is now on the FBI's terror whatever watch list, because it's just so stupid. So what is The Matrix? If you're a Matrix fan now, are you like on the list of terrible people that exist, I guess? I don't know anymore. I don't know what this crap is. So that was a dumb article I thought I'd just quickly pull up. Next, we're going to move on to Clarence Thomas. I have a Timcast article and I have a Daily Mail article. Both of them seem pretty short, so I might do both. So we'll start with the Timcast one. Whoops. It was being really weird. I have a hard time when I zoom my thing in. Like, this looks fine, right? How Timcast has their website set up. That looks perfectly fine on this screen. But then when I pull up Daily Mail, it's like, holy crap, why is it like that? And it's all zoomed to the same level. I don't understand. So, because my brain doesn't want to look at that other one right now, we'll start with the Timcast one. Justice Clarence Thomas defends vacations with GOP mega donor. Under financial disclosure requirements that changed 1 month ago, Thomas was not required to report any of the activities. Sorry, my brain had to process that sentence. I'm tired today. We had a busy weekend, so I'm not all here. If this video seems very out of whack, that is why. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas has responded to critics who called for his impeachment this week after a report from ProPublica alleged he may have violated the law by not disclosing certain gifts from Republican mega donor. So AOC was on whatever show being like, yes, impeach him. We need to impeach that man. And it's like, I tweeted, I was like, hey, didn't you mishandle campaign funds and like funnel them to your boyfriend or something? If you're talking about impeaching people over this kind of stuff, get in line, girl. Harlan Crow, a wealthy Dallas real estate magnate and GOP donor, has maintained a friendship with Thomas for more than 2 decades. Over the years, Thomas has gone on several vacations, which have at times included overseas trips and jaunts on a 162-foot tall yacht, all paid for by Crow. ProPublica asserted in an April 6 report that Thomas may have been engaged in improprieties by not reporting the trips on financial disclosures. Per federal law, judges are required to file an annual financial disclosure forms and are prohibited from accepting gifts from anyone with the cases being heard by the court. Until last month, the judicial branch had not clearly defined exemptions for gifts considered personality hospitality, the Washington Post reported. Under federal guidelines in place prior to the recent change, the trips Thomas and Crow took were not required to have been disclosed in annual reporting. The day after the ProPublica report, Thomas released a statement defending his actions. Early in my tenure at the court, I sought guidance from my colleagues and others in the judiciary and was advised that this sort of personal hospitality from close personal friends who do not have the business before the court was not reportable, Thomas said. I have endeavored to follow that counsel throughout my tenure and have always sought to comply with the disclosure guidelines. Crow released a separate statement affirming his friendship with Thomas, clarifying that neither the justice nor his wife asked Crow for any hospitality, and they have never discussed cases. We have never asked about pending or lower court cases, and Justice Thomas has never discussed one. And we have never sought to influence Justice Thomas on any legal or political issue, Crow explained. More generally, I am unaware of any of our friends ever lobbying or seeking to influence Justice Thomas on any case, and I would never invite anyone who I believe had any intention of doing that. These gatherings are for friends. So I really just think that the Democrat Party wants to get another person on the court on their side, so they're afraid. They know that Trump's gained a bunch of I can't talk today. Oh my gosh. Like I said, I think I have a mild cold, so I'm really brain foggy. I think they know that Trump received a lot of support after the whole indictment, arrest, arraignment crap. I think they're realizing we might be in trouble. We might actually be challenged. So I think they're trying to just, hey, that's kind of funky. Let's get rid of Clarence Thomas and put someone we want on the court. So I really don't think that this has anything to do with anything. I think it's kind of crappy and it doesn't make sense that they're freaking out about it. Let's see what Daily Mail, how they choose to spin it. Thomas has taken annual vacations with Crow while failing to disclose the acceptance of travel arrangements, including rides on a luxury yacht. Crow and Thomas met in the 1990s, a few years after Thomas joined the High Court, and the two have had a close relationship ever since. Okay, so they're friends. Thomas consulted colleagues on personal hospitality that was not reportable. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas said Friday that colleagues assured him that personal hospitality from close friends was allowable. In his first comments, it's a bombshell report on him accepting luxury travel from a billionaire developer. Thomas issued a statement, an unusual response to public attention for a member of the High Court, a day after it was revealed the Dallas-based Republican mega donor Harlan Crow paid out of his own pocket for excursion to Indonesia and a tranquil upstate New York retreat for Thomas and his wife Virginia, better known as Ginny. Also, people don't like Clarence Thomas because he's married to a white woman, and the left really wants segregation, and they don't like interracial stuff happening because, it doesn't further their agenda. As friends do, we have joined them on a number of family trips during the more than quarter century we have known them, he said, without disputing any elements of a ProPublica report that said they traveled annually to Crow's Camp, Topridge in the Adirondacks. Like I said, these pictures are ridiculously, I don't know why Daily Mail does this when I pull it up on the screen. Early in my tenure at the court, I sought guidance from my colleagues and others in the judiciary and was advised that this sort of personal hospitality from close friends who do not have business before the court was not reportable. I have endeavored to follow that counsel through my tenure, and I've always sought to comply with the disclosure guidelines. These guidelines are now being changed as the Committee of the Judicial Conference responsible for financial disclosure for the entire federal judiciary just this past month announced new guidance, and it is of course my intent to follow this guidance in the future. The guidelines Thomas reference to were tightened just weeks ago and now explicitly justices to require gifts and free property stays. However, there is nothing in the past that would have prevented a member of the nation's highest court from erring on the side of the disclosure and revealing lavish travel had been provided gratis. The Ethics and Government Act of 1978 requires justice to file an annual disclosure from when they're required to disclose gifts, but make exceptions for personal hospitality. So, yeah. So basically, they've changed the rules since he did this, and they're trying to nab him on that. And it's like, okay, but the rule previously stated this. You can't, when a rule changes, you can't be like, well, you didn't follow the rules 2 decades ago when they were this. We've changed them to this now. So you didn't follow them back then, so now you're in trouble. That it doesn't work that way. That's bullcrap. So I think that's bullcrap. I think Clarence Thomas is fine. I think it's literally just the left wanting to remove a black man from the Supreme Court. I think that's all it is, because he doesn't fit their narrative of what a black man should be. So moving on from that, we're quickly going to hop over to an NPR article, and I'm also going to look at a Texas Tribune article relating to Daniel Perry. So I watched the videos or whatever that were available to watch of the the killing of the BLM protester or whatever. And I really think I think that, like, I'd be nervous to live in Austin, Texas, because if Texas, the most like gun-toting state, is doing this to a man for saving himself in his car when he has an AK-47 pointed in his face, and they want to put him away for murder when he was threatened and he had all the right reasons to defend himself, that's scary. So let me just take a quick drink of water. Okay. Wow. Sorry. That probably was loud. Texas governor seeks to pardon Army sergeant convicted of murder. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said that he is seeking to pardon a U.S. Army sergeant who was convicted of murder in the 2020 fatal shooting of an armed protester during nationwide protests against police violence and racial injustice. Abbott tweeted that because the state constitution limits him to a pardon, only a recommendation by the State Board of Pardons and Paroles, he is asking the board to recommend a pardon and expedite his request in order to pardon Sergeant Daniel Perry. I look forward to approving the board's pardon recommendation as soon as it hits my desk, Abbott wrote. Excuse me. Perry was convicted Friday by a Travis County jury of fatally shooting 28-year-old Garrett Foster during protests in Austin. He faces up to a life in prison when sentenced. Texas has one of the strongest stand your ground laws of self-defense that cannot be nullified by a jury or a progressive district attorney, Abbott said. A phone call to District Attorney Jose Garza's office on Saturday was not answered. Perry's attorneys argued that the shooting was in self-defense as Foster approached Perry's car with an AK-47 rifle. Prosecutors said Perry could have driven away before firing his revolver, and witnesses testified Foster never raised his rifle at Perry. 1. You're at a BLM protest. Who do you think those witnesses are going to be? They're going to be BLM protesters. They're going to be on the side of the man who raised his gun at an American soldier. So of course they're going to give you a crap testimony on it. 2. Oh, so he could have just driven away when he was surrounded by protesters, probably would have run them over, and if he wasn't charged with murder for defending himself when an AK-47 was pointed in his face, he would have been charged probably for some kind of manslaughter for running over protesters if they had died in that process. When you're surrounded by people like that, you can't necessarily just drive away. They're making it sound like this was a picnic and he could have easily just, oh, sorry guys, I don't really like having guns pointed in my face. I'm just going to keep driving. Also, if you have a gun pointed at your face and you are driving a car, they could pull the trigger before you could get away. This is unrealistic and unreasonable expectation. I saw a Washington Post article that like started it with like, oh, soldier kills legally armed protester. And it's so funny to me, right? That we have this like anti-gun rhetoric on the left or the more woke folk, where it's like, nobody should be armed, nobody should have guns, this is ridiculous. But when it's one of their own, oh, but he was legally armed, it was fine. This guy just shot him for no reason. He was legally armed. He was okay to have that gun. Oh, so suddenly you're on the side of people wandering around the streets toting guns when before you seemed very anti-gun. What changed? Oh, it's one of your people? Oh, I see what changed. So that's just bull crap to me. This is such a bull crap case. Texas, of all places, like I said, if you have a gun pointed in your face, you should be allowed to defend yourself. New Jersey has laws where you have to flee. If someone breaks into your home and if they point a gun at you, you're not allowed to defend yourself. You have to flee. And if you are unable to flee, you must prove in court that you were unable to flee. So you must have been in a basement with no windows and no way out, and then you can shoot them to save your life. You can act in self-defense if you are unable to flee your home. That is one of the most ridiculous statements I have ever heard. It is one of the most ridiculous laws I have ever heard, and is one reason why I will never live in New Jersey, and I really hope that those laws don't come to the rest of the country. So let's continue. Perry, okay, I don't want to. I don't want a newsletter. I don't like you. Perry, who was charged in 2021, was stationed at Fort Hood, about 70 miles north of Austin, in July 2020 when he was working for a ride-sharing company. He was like an Uber driver, and turned onto a street into a large crowd of demonstrators in downtown Austin. In a video streamed live on Facebook, a car can be heard honking before several shots ring out and protesters begin screaming and scattering. When Foster was killed, demonstrators in Austin and beyond began marching in the streets for weeks following the police killing of George Floyd. We know about George Floyd. I don't know why they're like, oh, let's make you guys have some sympathy here and we'll describe George Floyd's plight. It has nothing to do with this other than it was a protest in his name, and that's how they end the article. So we're going to hop over to a Texas Tribune article and go through that one as well. Governor Greg Abbott backs call for pardon for Daniel Perry, who killed Austin protester in 2020. The governor says he asked the Board of Pardons and Paroles to expedite the review, recommended clemency one day after Perry was convicted of murder. Governor Greg Abbott directed the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles to consider recommending a pardon for Daniel Perry on Saturday, one day after a Travis County jury convicted the U.S. Army Sergeant in the 2020 murder of Austin protester Garrett Foster. After 17 hours of deliberations and an 8-day trial, jurors Friday found Perry guilty of murder for shooting and killing Foster, who was armed with an AK-47 as part of a group protesting police brutality. Perry, an Uber driver, had encountered the protest a few blocks from the Capitol in downtown Austin. Under pressure from conservatives, rightly so, Abbott announced Saturday that he had asked the parole board to review Perry's conviction on an expedited basis. The Texas Constitution, he said, requires the parole board to recommend a pardon before a governor can act. So a lot of people were like, why aren't you just pardoning him? Well, it's because according to their constitution, they have a process that they have to go through legally for it to work. Abbott's doing the right thing here. He's following the process and he's trying to do it correctly. I look forward to approving the board's pardon recommendation as soon as it hits my desk, Abbott said in a statement posted to Twitter. Texas has one of the strongest stand your ground laws of self-defense that cannot be nullified by a jury or a progressive district attorney, Abbott added, repeating conservative criticism leveled against Travis County's Democratic District Attorney, Jose Garcia. So I find it interesting that a Democratic District Attorney who apparently is against gun violence, right, and wants guns taken away, is defending a man who literally is defending a man who literally tried to shoot and kill somebody while they were in their parked car. How many times has this happened in these BLM riots where there was a woman sitting in her parked car, she was shot, there were toddlers in the backseat of cars who were going through these riots that just happened to get caught up in them. There was an 8-year-old girl that was shot in her car seat. And yet they're on the side of the violent protesters in these mostly peaceful but fiery protests. This is ridiculous, and this is something that I have always called out and always will call out. Prior to Abbott's announcement, the Republican Party of Texas called on the governor to get involved. This case should never have been prosecuted. A pardon by Abbott is in order, wrote Texas GOP Chair Matt Rindali in a Friday Evening Post to Twitter. Tucker Carlson, a conservative commentator on Fox News, covered Perry's conviction on his show Friday evening. Carlson said he invited Abbott to discuss whether he was considering pardon for Perry, but said the governor declined. So that is Greg Abbott's position. There is no right for self-defense in Texas, Carlson told his viewers. Based on a parole board recommendation, Abbott granted 2 pardons in 2022, 8 in 2021, and 7 in 2020. All for lower-level offenses, including theft, providing alcohol to a minor, assault by contact, burglary of a vehicle, credit card abuse, and illegally carrying a firearm. Perry, found guilty of murder but not guilty of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, killed. That's interesting. So he's guilty of murder but not guilty of aggravated assault. I would say the other guy is definitely guilty of aggravated assault. Killed Foster during a protest against police brutality on July 25th, one of many happening across the country after George Floyd, a black man, was killed by a white Minneapolis police officer in May 2020. According to police, Perry was driving for Uber when he stopped his car and honked at protesters as they walked through the street. Seconds later, he drove his car into the crowd, police said. Foster was a 28-year-old white man and an Air Force veteran, had been seen openly carrying an AK-47 rifle at the time, which was legal. Again, they're pushing, oh, well, it was legal. It was fine for him to have been there with a gun. All right, so it was fine for Kyle Rittenhouse to be at his protest with a gun to defend himself in the case of anything going wrong. You can't argue against Kyle Rittenhouse and argue for this man. I'm sorry. There are conflicting accounts as to whether Foster raised the rifle to the driver before Perry, who was also legally armed, shot and killed Foster and fled the area, police said. He called the police and reported what happened, claiming he shot in self-defense after Foster aimed his weapon at him. Perry is also a white man. Perry's defense argued the shooting was justified under the state's stand your ground law, which allows deadly force to be used by those who feel they are in danger. Perry's earlier social media posts about retaliating against protesters raised questions about the shooter's state of mind and his self-defense to claim. That's why social media is so dangerous. You could post something not meaning any intent behind it, and then they will take that, they will look at that and be like, well, they posted this a week ago, so clearly they did this on purpose. In his announcement, Abbot also touted legislation seeking to take control away from locally elected prosecutors who he described as rogue. A bill intended to rein in the district attorneys who declined to pursue certain cases passed the Senate on Wednesday. The bill, a priority for Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, is part of an effort to limit the power of elected prosecutors, especially in Texas's largest left-leaning counties. Several Republicans praised Abbott's promise to work as swiftly as Texas allows to pardon Perry, including Attorney General Ken Paxton, who tweeted he agreed with Abbott on this 100%. But State Senator Sarah Eckhard called Abbott's move a stunning and dangerous abrogation of the rule of law that will embolden more armed confrontations and inevitable tragedies. So, listen, I think it's ridiculous. I think that as a parent, right, if I was in my car and somebody walked up to me with a firearm and aimed it at me and my children, and I had the opportunity to defend myself, I would take that opportunity. What are you supposed to do? Oh, can you not point that at me? I'm going to keep driving. No, an erratic, irrational person in the middle of a violent protest like that is not going to be like, oh, yeah, my mistake. Go ahead. Drive right along. Sorry, I aimed this at you. So it seems like a pretty clear case of self-defense. And if this is how we treat people who defend themselves when they are put in harm's way, then that is pretty scary. I actually did a pretty short video today. Hopefully it's coherent. I'm not actually sure if it will be, but I'm going to get that uploaded probably by 1:30. My lighting, let me know if it looks terrible today. It's daylight. The last one I recorded, it was much darker in this room, and for some reason today it's just so beautiful and sunny that it's just all pouring in. I need to probably cover the windows better. So that's why my lighting looks so much different. And I really hope that this video is coherent. I hope that it sounds all right. And I'm going to go rest my voice now because it doesn't want to keep talking. So I hope everyone has a great afternoon. I will try and be back on again tomorrow, and I will see everyone next time.